Tracy Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered.
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the machinima, Luke.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of And Now for Something Completely Machinima. I'm joined by my co-hosts Ricky Grove.
Hey.
And Tracy Harwood.
Hello.
Phil is absent this month because he's dealing with the aftermath of the recent hurricane. He is completely fine. He's just got a lot of work to do to help the cleanup where he is. So he will not be present for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he is fine, so don't worry about him. He's just incredibly busy at the moment. But we look forward to his return
indeed
next month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right, so we've still got some films to discuss, and this week we're going to be discussing Ricky's. So what have you chosen for us?
Well,
Ricky?
I had a bit of a problem because if you remember in my episode last month, I did Fake Science, which was from the machinima collection at archive.org. And so I was really looking forward to diving in and finding other little jewels from the past. But archive.org got hacked, and pretty severely, with a denial of service attack, and they went down. They were down for several days, and they managed to get a few things back up, but their main archive, which included machinima, has not come back up. It's still not up. And so I was struggling I kept hoping that they would get back up so I could make a pick even as late as maybe 4 or 5 days ago. So I realized it just wasn't going to happen. So I started thinking about what it is I wanted to find, and Tracy sent me some responses from different listeners, and we got a really interesting one from 3D Chick. And here's what she wrote. She said, "My YouTube feed brought this up for me this morning. I don't know what tech it was made in, so it may not qualify as machinima, but I found it engaging and delightful, and I thought I'd pass it along." And she's right. It's not machinima. It's traditional 3D rendered animation. But the pic was so interesting and fun, I thought we'd share the rare non-machinima video. So I chose a CGI 3D animated short called Beyond the Dust. And it's by a collection of students from a French animation school, ESMA, Ecole something animation. I can't speak French, but anyway, it's a good school, and they created this film as their graduation final, and that led me back to thinking about my master's program, and all of the directors at Yale School of Drama got a chance to direct their own film and could cast anybody that's in the school. And it was really good because you work extra hard because it's part of your degree accreditation, but it's also a lot of fun because you get to work with people you know, and a whole group of people: Alexa, Martin, Lucien, Marina, Benjamin, Matteo, Salome, Giulietta, and an original score by Gregory Allison. And Beyond the Dust is a short film. It's only about 6.5 minutes. And it's done in the Pixar style, along with the sort of Pixar themes and disadvantages, actually, from my point of view. But it's a future story, much like a Ray Bradbury story, set in the future where there's a home, and there are no people in it, which that's why I mentioned Bradbury, because it's as if there's been some sort of terrible Holocaust and there are no more people, but the machines continue to work on, and they're not mindless creatures. Like Pixar, they sort of anthropomorphize the machines into sentient beings who feel things. And basically, the story is a duster, something that dusts around, and a robot, a housekeeping robot, combine to fight. They want to leave, they want to get out. And they have to fight the house AI, which is in the form of a sort of, a snake-like monitoring program. And through their own, it won't hurt to spoil the ending. I mean, anybody who's seen a Pixar film will tell you what the ending is right from the beginning. But they manage by working together and combining and caring for each other to defeat the snake AI and leave out into the unknown. The excellent thing about this film is that it's absolutely gorgeous. I was never able to find out what program it was made in, but I'm sure it was top end, 3D Studio Max, Cinema 4D, uh, programs like that, maybe even a little bit of Unreal. It's hard to say, but it's beautiful. Despite the sentimentality of it, which just turns me off, I got over it. And I enjoyed it so much, and I enjoyed the way that the animation in particular was beautiful. Every detail was just right, and the music was just so good. These students use this film as a kind of ticket to get jobs in the CGI and animation world, the professional world in France or in the USA. And this is a absolutely wonderful ticket. 3D Chick is so right in suggesting this. By the way, 3D Chick has her own YouTube channel. It's got a lot of, she's a big fan of Real Illusion, and she does lots of tutorials about how to use Real Illusion, combining it with Character Creator and Unreal Engine. We'll put a link in our show notes to connect to you. But I want to thank you, 3D Chick, and other people who contacted us. We do read your stuff, and it was enjoyable. And thanks for recommending this, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think all of these students who got together to create this are going to have very healthy careers. And that's my thoughts on it. How about you guys?
Do you want me to go next? Damien?
Yeah, you go first.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
go for it.
I thought this was a really beautiful 3D animation. And by the way, I think it's been made using Maya. Maya, hang on, I did find out. Maya, RenderMan, Nukex, Houdini, 3D Substance Painter, ZBrush, and a few others. So it's proper traditional 3D animation. I didn't see Unreal as being one of the tools, though.
I was just guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it could well have been, but I don't think it was in this particular case.
Okay.
I mean, what an excellent pick. 3D Chick's name is Nicole Montgomery, so I just thought I'd throw that out there as well. So thanks, Nicole, because she's
Thank you,
always
Nicole.
commenting on our videos.
thank
so
you.
We really appreciate that. Well, what a masterful story this is. It's I sort of thought about Pixar when I was looking at this, and I thought in the end, actually, it's not really a Pixar-ish like thing for me. And I think primarily it's because it seemed to combine the sort of what's the word, beneficent type bots with more of a maleficent type bot.
Oh, we're being quite wordy today.
Yeah, quite wordy. I just thought, even though I could remember the words. But these are it sort of combines these two things and puts them in this environment. So you've got three bots that are very different, but you'll be familiar with each of their personalities as it kind of unfolds. And as I was watching it, I kind of got a sense of a bit of sort of Wall-E, perhaps, a bit of
A Pixar film.
yes, a bit of Prometheus, David 8, a bit of Asimov's HAL, and also a little bit of War of the Worlds. So some very different kind of alien-like things going on there with these machines. I'd call it a society of robots in some respects. And as you said, there's this vacuum bot who, as he's kind of dusting, uncovers this kind of natural world by, accidentally knocking over the controls for the TV and flicking the TV on to this recording of a nature documentary with beautiful scenery and all that kind of stuff. And then this bot clearly wants to escape its perennial task of sweeping floors to see this world for itself. And yet it's clearly kind of battery charged. It's very much in the mold of an iRobot's floor cleaner and what have you. You've got another bot that's a Robbie-like thing, who appears to do the maintenance around the home, but clearly has this sort of love of playing music, particularly one vinyl that it plays over and over again. I would say evidently from a machine that it's been instructed to maintain. As it has also the vacuum, so it's got this sort of suite of machines that it kind of looks after. And then this sort of slave master AI thing, that's clearly taken its task to heart, and basically it will not allow the others to deviate one bit from whatever their daily tasks are. So what you've then got between these three bot-like things is tension between what they're all supposed to do, and they're each have this sort of desire to do something that's sort of slightly outside of whatever it's been set up to do. And this tension, as this film unfolds, this tension builds between these things to the point at which they destroy each other, simply by doing what they want to do. And then to me, this finishes on a kind of a classic scene where all three things are kind of illustrated as being hoisted by their own petard, reinforced by that beautiful lens flare, that rainbow lens flare, on a world outside when the doors open, and this world is nothing like the natural world that this vacuum bot had seen portrayed on this television screen. His whole purpose for getting out was to see that, and of course the world isn't like that anymore. And in many ways, what I thought about this was it's a moral tale for bots, which I thought was just incredibly well done. Soundscape I thought was very well done. I mean, 6 minutes that just sort of flew past with this.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't take
Yeah.
6 minutes to watch this. Weirdly, it just, I could watch it several times and enjoyed it every single time that I watched it. And I wasn't at all surprised to see that it had won a Best Animation Award in 2003 at the Rookies, which I think was very well deserved. I think in some very interesting ways, this film beautifully reminded me of Peter Rasmussen's storytelling with robots in the early 2000s, and I'm sure both of you will remember this. He did a couple of really early test shorts before he then made Stolen Life. And you can see, if you're interested, you can see Stolen Life on Phil's Vimeo channel, where he's restored Peter's work. It's really worth having a look at it though, because although the difference between Stolen Life and what you're seeing here is that film, Stolen Life, was voice acted, and in many ways that voice acting made up for the lack of animation quality. And in this film, the richness comes not from the voice acting, because there is none, but from the cinematic quality of the animation itself. But for me, what I got out of this was the same sense of personality that Peter had managed to achieve in that very early example of machine cinema. It's not machinima, as you say, but it's certainly machine cinema. And these personalities are kind of embedded in these kind of mechatronic beasts. And it's that personality, that articulation of personality and the sense of it that really made me think of the way Peter had achieved that, because I've not seen anything like that before Peter's work. Each is kind of very different, has very different jobs. It has a very different persona as well. And again, that's what made me think of Peter's film. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the other thing to mention is this particular piece has been inspired partly by the work of Zaha Hadid. And I think if you know Hadid's architectural designs, you'll see very clearly in the vacuum bots the kind of the curves in the machine, but you'll also see the curves in the room design as well, and also the color scheme, the bronzes and the beiges, very characteristic of Hadid's designs. So yeah, I thought it was I mean, lots and lots of references in it, I think, as well. There were you know, when I was looking at the comments these guys were making about this film, there's a couple of points that they made which I think is worth reflecting on a little bit, because I was looking at that the maintenance bot and thinking Robbie the robot, but actually their reference wasn't to Robbie but to Boston Dynamics Atlas. And one or two other comments that they were sort of making, which really weren't cinematic references at all, but they were design references and engineering references, which I thought was quite intriguing. And I suppose really, you know, we've often sort of said that the kind of techniques that we're seeing, you know, 3D animation techniques that we're seeing have lots of other potential uses beyond cinema and film, and beyond integrating game and what have you into the creative process. But I think this one's quite interesting because it's clearly drawing on other cultural references as well, architecture for one, but engineering and, you know, production design for another. And I guess, you know, we might see a little bit more of that kind of type of reference going forward as 3D animation becomes more embedded in creative practice across a whole spectrum of potential applications. So I really like this for a whole range of reasons. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all I probably better say about it, but it was a great pick, Ricky. And to Nicole again, thanks for sharing it with us. Really good one.
I appreciate that. Please, anyone who wants to recommend a film, we like to look at machinima, but occasionally we'll look at a traditional animation like this. Traditional meaning it's rendered, you know, each scene is rendered using probably a render farm, as opposed to being rendered in real time, which is what machinima is about. But we'll look at that, and thank you again, Nicole. That was so much fun to watch this movie. Damien, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, for sending us this, because I really enjoyed it as well. Yeah, you're right. This isn't the kind of machinima that we normally discuss, but I'm glad that we are now, because I really enjoyed this film, and it's one of those films where the plot is fairly straightforward and it sets out, you know, the events unfold the way you expect, but also doesn't explain everything. So your imagination is left to try and fill in the gaps, like what happened to the people that built this place? Were those robots always like sentient, or did they develop that over time? I started thinking about things like that, and then at the end, when the doors open, you see the world outside, thinking, I wonder what's out there, what's around the corner where you can't see. And of course, we don't see that because that's where the film ends. But you know, I quite like films that don't give you all the answers. They leave just enough that you can imagine the world outside, what's out of frame, and so on. And I thought the animation was stunning. So the Roomba type bot, you know, it's just a circle basically, but it's still, you could feel its emotions just from the way it moved, even though its actual movement was fairly limited to what it could do. And then the other robot that actually is more humanoid shape, you can do more with that because it's got arms and legs and it can move around. And they also got the snake AI bot. I thought that was a security bot.
Yeah.
It was its goal was
Yeah.
to prevent anyone getting in and out.
Yeah.
Um, and because it's got that snake-like appearance, it can be very aggressive because our perspective of snakes is they're hostile. So you can bring that in across very easily. So I thought this was an excellent piece of work. It's really hard to add more to what you
Right.
guys have already spoken about it, but
That's
yeah,
the
I'm
problem
really
of
glad I
coming
saw
at
this.
the
And
end of when you're at the end of the conversation. Well, you should go first, Nick.
well, I will because it's my film next.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
good.
But yeah, this is a really good film, and also I was working on something and I wasn't quite happy with the way it was looking. So when I watched this, I thought, this is giving me some ideas on how to improve the quality of my own work. So I went back and
Excellent.
adjusted some things. Not quite there yet, but you know, I'm happier with because I watched this and was able to learn from it. So that's another reason I like this film.
Marvelous.
So
There
yeah,
was one
this is an excellent film.
I'm glad. There was
No,
one moment that I was particularly taken with, and that was when the sort of home robot, the Robbie figure, if you will, played the vinyl. They, I got the feeling that it was female, so I'm
Oh,
just going to say she. But she
I had the
danced
same
to it.
thing.
yeah.
She danced to it, and I thought the animation in that dancing sequence, which occurs I think twice, was just so magnificent. It was
Yeah.
so beautifully done because you have this rough square robot that moves in linear fashion suddenly is moving in curves and is very lyrical and dancing. I just thought that was a magnificent piece of work, you
Yeah.
know. And the last thing I wanted to close with is made me think about something you said, Tracy, which was the time just flew by. It was 6 minutes, but it didn't feel like it. I think that's a sign, and we use it all the time when we look at films of engagement.
Mm.
I think directors and films do a disservice, or they're not working well if they don't engage you, so the time stops. Time just becomes meaningless. It wasn't 30 seconds into this film that I immediately, it could have been 20 minutes and I wouldn't have known the difference. Whereas I think other films, they forget that engagement to the audience and they're so involved in presenting their own visual things or their storytelling things that they forget that the audience has to be involved in your film, whatever it is, whether even if it's an avant-garde film or a music video. We'll see later this month there's a music video pick and we can talk about it then. But that was one of the things that they succeeded masterfully. It's as if all of the technical work, and believe me, CGI animation is hard and it takes a lot of time. This team was what, 7 to 10 people? I'm sure they worked months on trying to get this thing together. So it's no easy feat. So even though all of these technical elements come together, you forget all about them because you're so involved in the world and the story. And that I thought was masterful. And I hope these students have great success in their professional careers.
Mm. Yeah, here.
Yeah, I agree with that at the time as well. Because I looked at the runtime before it started, and then it got to the end. It can't be that long already. But yeah, so yeah, I wish these students all the best as well. I hope we get to see some more of their work before they get snapped up by
Yes, indeed.
big companies and we lose track of who they are. But yeah, I wish you all the best. And again, thank you for choosing this, and thank you for 3D Chick for sending it to us because I think it's safe to say we all enjoyed it a great deal. So if you have any more films like this, please send them in, and that goes to anyone else listening as well. Send your comments and feedback to talk@completelycinema.com, and as you can see, we read all the comments and responses we get. So yeah, this whole episode wouldn't exist without feedback. So there we go.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's it for this episode from me, Damien Valentine, and from Ricky and Tracy. and we'll be back next week with another film pick. So take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See you then.